Welcome to the Badass Babe Manifest podcast. The vibe here is how to manifest in a simple and fun way, implementing my abundance DNA method without the bullshit, overcomplicated hacks or fluff. I'm your host, Kelly Pender, your spiritual manifestation coach, and together we're going to uncover your unique abundance frequency, step into who the fuck you are unapologetically, and remove the limitation caps as well as playing it small to open yourself the F up to the unlimited abundance, success, and money to easily flow into your life and or business. Let's manifest that shit. Hello, my love. Welcome back to another episode of the Badass Babe Manifest podcast. We have Taylor Mobley, who is an automation and systems expert, podcast host, and mama of three. She is obsessed with helping you get your business organized and your time managed so that you can live fully in your zone of genius. And let me tell you, from someone who has avoided time management, systems, automation for such a long time because I felt like it was restrictive of myself, of who I am, hearing her expertise and perspective is like, oh, I feel excited. I feel lit up. And trust me, you're going to learn so much in this episode. It is packed with just gems and nuggets of wisdom. You're going to learn how to cut out the feelings of anxiousness and overwhelm when you're busying yourself with things that don't move the needle. Taylor teaches us her sandwich method for time management, which is so freaking good. You're going to find out what automation you need in your business with her simple 5-step framework. And we're diving into repurposing content. The how, the what, the why. This is just chef's kiss, a business time management podcast that's anything but boring. And before we dive in, I am beyond excited to invite you into my brand new program, Badass CEO. And fun fact, this was actually inspired by my clients inside MTSU and what we have been working on in there. You may or may not know this, but one of the biggest money blocks is the feeling of not enough. And we are done with having that be our backing belief, which feeds the neural pathway of lack and results in us playing small, hiding, pushing off launches/offers, and self-sabotaging sales and new clients who want to come in and work with you. This is for you if you've tried all the business strategy, you've tried all the manifestation methods, and are ready to finally remove the pathway of not enough so you can show up convicted in your body of work and offers where you make more sales with ease and open up new money-making neural pathways where your phone is lighting the F up with PayPal notifications and aligned clients are sliding into your DMs being like, girl, send me that link. Girl, I want to work with you one-on-one. Girl, I am effing ready. This is our one and only live round with training modules, Q&A coaching, and science-backed techniques that you will have lifetime access to. This is massively going to change the money and abundance game in your business. And right now it's on pre-sale for 70% off full price for the next few days only. So DM me the word CEO on Instagram or head to the link in the show notes to get your sweet self inside. There's a special bonus for the first 5 babes that you'll see there. And let me just say, my love, you don't need another shiny new business strategy. I have worked with so many clients who have been in so many different business programs, courses, and coaching, and it always, always, always comes down to the feeling of not enough. And you came here to transform millions of lives and make a fucking impact on the world. I know that, you know that, and that's exactly why this program was birthed into existence. So you don't need to wait to be healed. You don't need to wait for insert whatever the fuck. You get to create a new pathway to become worthy as fuck and make moves like a badass CEO. And I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that with science-backed techniques. I am so excited for this life fucking changing program. Again, you can DM me on Instagram, the word CEO, or head to the link in show notes to get inside. And without further ado, let's dive into this juicy pod episode with Taylor. Yes. All right, Taylor. I'm so freaking excited to have you on the show today.
Girl, I am so excited. I was counting down today. This is like my thing I was excited for.
Yes. Well, this is perfect because we need you and we need your expertise. And I love this because I don't think I've had anyone on the podcast who is all about saving us time
Yeah.
organizing and automating our business, which is everything. And this is what we need. So
Perfect.
we need you. I would love to dive in kind of like first before we get to the juice and spill the tea. I
Mhm.
always love to hear because it helps to just activate others who are listening, like their soul
Mhm.
work and mission. So, what allowed you to start in this field and stepping into your expertise?
Great. Well, first off, I'm a Capricorn. So
Perfect.
I was born this way, unfortunately. So that just came from the womb.
Love it.
But also I really found a gap. On a more serious note, I found a big gap when I was pregnant with my first child,
Hmm.
and I could no longer fly by the seat of my pants because everything works. I always say everything works until it doesn't.
Yes.
Right? So your sticky note on the computer system will work until it doesn't.
Yep.
And then you're in trouble. Or your, bootstrapped accounting system will work until it doesn't. And so, I get a lot of, and like for me, everything worked doing it manually when I had no children. I was doing my job full time. I had all of the hours Monday through Friday to kind of like do what I wanted to do and make work happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm really good at this. I'm like so good. And I was also 23 and everything was easy. And
Yep.
I could operate on no sleep, and 80-hour weeks felt refreshing, and it was great, and it worked until it didn't. And
Mhm.
I got pregnant with my first, and all of a sudden you learn what tired is. And then you have a newborn. And I was like, oh shoot, none of the systems I didn't even have very many systems in place, but nothing I had in place was going to work anymore.
Yep.
It wasn't going to support what I needed to do. I had no team member, like I didn't have a team. I didn't even know how to start to set up an automation.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I got to do what I've done for everything else, and that's figure it out.
Hmm.
So I sat down and I was like, I got to get away from pen and paper. I need to move over to digital. I played around with dozens of project management systems and tools. At
Yeah.
the time, I landed on Trello.
Hmm.
And for a long time, I was very happy with Trello. It was great. I've since moved on to more robust product management system. I'm in Notion now.
Yep.
Um, but there was a point where I was like, okay, I can't do it like I was doing it, right? It can't be held together with like gum and sticky notes because
Yeah.
I can't scale. One, I can't scale that way, and that always been the goal. And two, things started falling through the cracks when I didn't have, all the hours in the day to look after things. And
Yes.
so meetings are missed or double booked, or deliverables aren't completely finalized, or you just feel overwhelmed all the time. I was anxious and overwhelmed all of the time
Yep.
because I was like, I have this new baby, and I also, want my marriage to stay great. And we just bought a house, and we had a brand new puppy, and I was trying to do this business, and there were just all the things. And manual was not an option.
Hmm.
So that's when I sat down and I was like, okay, there's good. Other people are doing this. How are they doing it? So where do I need to be to like get up to speed? And I fell totally in love with it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I've always like loved planners and like back to school supplies. Like I love that stuff already.
Yeah.
But when it became like a real necessity, I realized I was good at like intuitively figuring out where things could go and how pieces could work together. And
Hmm.
it brought me a lot of joy. And so when I figured out how to do it for myself, I was like, other people need to know about this.
Yes.
And so I started with my friends and I was like, can I digitally organize your business for you? And they're like, sure. And I made them my guinea pigs. And then I was able to go, okay, I can do this like for other people and other businesses. And it works every time.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. I love this. This is amazing. I'm literally looking down at my desk and I'm like, oh, so my brain, I'm one of those people who like, there's something about just writing with pen and paper. I'm like, oh, I can brain dump.
Yes.
My thing is, I love organization, but like with these kids running around and myself and running a business, sometimes my brain dump on pieces of paper just gets left on my desk, which is what I'm staring at right now.
If it helps, same.
Okay.
Me too. I'm not perfect. I too love the feeling of pen and paper. We just got to make sure it gets transferred. All right.
Yes. Well, I'm just saying that because I think that when we're learning about like automations and systems, like for me, I was like, I can't get rid of my pen and paper. Like that's how my brain works. I need to brain
Mhm.
dump. And so I'm
Absolutely.
just sharing that because like clearly seeing you have that, it's like you don't need to get rid of that.
Nope, you don't.
It's gonna be okay.
Yeah. We're just
Okay.
going to adjust. We're just going to make it better.
Yes.
But we don't need to take away everything you love.
I love that. Well, that to me is like a huge permission slip because I know that when I was starting to learn about
Mm-hmm.
systems and automations, I was like, no. And I was just like completely not allowing myself to do it because I thought that meant removing things that I like to do, but it
Yep.
doesn't.
Exactly. I get a lot of people who feel that way and then get stuck and they're like, but what if there's no me in it anymore?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I've done it. And I'm like, it won't run without like your processes don't need you. You're creating them. They're already you. We're just making them run without you pressing a button. We're just
Yes.
setting them up, but they don't exist without you infused into them. So,
I love
we're
that.
not getting rid of you. We're just giving you extra hands.
Oh, I needed to hear that because there was something else I'm resisting that I'm
Yes.
implementing that was in your automation tool.
Toolkit? Yes.
Yes. And I was like, I'm resisting, but I know this is meant for me. I know I need this. It'll save me time. So
Yeah.
you saying that, thank you. I
You're
needed
welcome.
that.
Now I feel like I need to go back and add a permission slip at the beginning of the toolkit for everybody.
I mean, we always need permission slips with something new because it's scary.
It is, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So I want to first dive into time management because this is another thing that was like a scary topic for me because I noticed, and I just want to speak on validating anyone's feelings.
Mhm.
When I have time, I notice that it's really easy for me to like leak all of my energy to things that actually don't matter and
100%.
don't move the needle.
Oh yeah, it's fun. Like I'll sit here and reorganize my desk. I'll go make a new Notion dashboard that I don't need. I'll add check boxes to things that are not
Oh,
what I need to do. And then I'm like, wait a second.
oh my gosh.
Be forward. It just made me feel busy.
Yes, I know. And so I really want to talk about that because, like,
Perfect.
as entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
business owners,
Yeah.
we have this thing where it's like, make yourself busy, right? And like, I already know what belief and neural pathway that feeds, and we're not going to go into that. But I don't want to busy myself anymore. I don't want to busy myself with things that don't matter and don't move the needle. So, can you please
Yes.
tell us, spill the tea
Time
on
and
time
balance.
management?
Yes. Time management is something I'm very passionate about because it is the only way that I personally can function. I am the kind of person who like my day's planned out basically to the hour. And like if I have free time, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Okay. Like if I don't have it written down, I'm like, I can't do anything. I'm frozen in time. And so I like to do that. It feels good. But there's a simple way that you can put a to-do list together that gives you everything that you need and isn't overwhelming. And I call this the sandwich method.
Okay.
And we're going to think of it just like a sandwich. Okay. So what we're going to do first is really hit those dopamine receptors with a
Yes.
quick win, right? So this is a task that will take you 5 to 10 minutes. It should be the very first thing on your to-do list. That's like, I'm going to feel so good, like checking something off my list.
Mm-hmm.
Because too often we're like, we put that big thing at the top. And
Yes.
we're like, this is what I need to get done today, right at the top of the page, which is great, unless it's like a 2 hour thing. And then you're like, well, I probably should fold like my laundry though first, right? Before I sit down for 2 hours. And there's a couple dishes in the sink that I'm like going to put away, because if they're out, they're going to distract me and I won't be able to focus on my 2-hour task. And like, there's all these, and maybe I should clean out the pictures on my phone because there's 10,000 of them, you know? And we do all these things to like avoid sitting down for this like big thing because it feels right. So we're going to not do that to ourselves, because then we're going to get to 4 p.m. and we still won't have done the big task, or we've started it, but we didn't finish it because now it's the end of the day and we didn't finish any of the other things that were on our list either. And you don't feel good after that. And you're like, well, why do I even bother making a list? Or why do I even bother putting these things together? Because nothing ever gets checked off. And that's such a defeating mindset that we all get sucked into. Like nobody's immune to feeling that way. So what we do first is that little tiny quick win. And sometimes I do 2 of them because it feels fun. But they shouldn't take you more than 5 to 10 minutes, whatever this task is. My first one is always like inbox 0 from the day before, right? So that like I go through that, it makes me feel good to like know that I've touched base with like anybody that's emailed me since I've been out of office from the day before. And it's a quick little scroll through for me to be like, okay, done, 10 minutes. Done, easy. So that doesn't have to be that for you, but find something that's 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
That's your bread. That's the top of the bread here.
Love it.
So the next one is, we've got some filler, and these are your condiments or cheese or something fun in your sandwich. And it's going to be something that takes you like 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. We're working our way up to this big task, but we're easing our way into it. And we are making sure that we get some things checked off our list, because if something happens and like halfway through your day, your kid gets sick, or, you have to pick somebody early up from school, or something happens, too often we won't have even felt like we've checked anything off our list. And we're like, well, what did I even do today? So as long as you like can start stacking these by priority and like time, it's a little bit of like a simplified version of time blocking. But I don't love time blocking because it just assumes nothing will ever interrupt your block of time.
Yes.
And that's not the case for me. So I find that a little bit limiting, which is why I'm like, if I stack these by like order of time, their weight, it's a little easier for me to kind of get through it. So usually we have like 2 of these that are like 20, 30-minute type tasks. And then it's time for like the meat of our sandwich, right? Your big task. And these usually take anywhere between like 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the task, is kind of what I block off for that. And even if it would take a little bit longer than that, I really try to stick to that time frame and like finish it the next day if possible, unless you really happen to be on a roll and you're like, I have 5 minutes left and I'll finish it,
Yeah.
But the thing is, it can feel like too much. I'm also speaking to like my mom's really here too, where I don't often have like 4 hours right now to sit down and complete something. It's just not possible in my life at the moment, but I can do something for an hour, or an hour and 15 minutes. And like right now, my daughter's nap is like an hour and 15 minutes. Like that's where I'm doing my big tasks. And even if I have to split it up into 2 days, that's just where life is right now. And that's okay. Like, it's not the end of the world. But try to like honor that time for yourself too, because it gives you a stopping point. It gives you like a light at the end of the tunnel kind of for some of these longer, tedious tasks. So that's the meat of your sandwich, 1 a day.
Love that.
I really recommend not stacking 2 in the day, because that just sets you up for discouragement if it doesn't happen. And we really don't need more than that if we're, managing ourselves really well. So 1 of those a day. And then I will follow it up with another 20-minute task and then end your day on a quick win. And so we're sandwiching that big, long task, that number 1 priority, in between all of these dopamine hits.
Yes.
And like your 20-minute tasks, are really like, those are things you need to get done. They don't take an hour, right? And your dopamine hits can be pretend. Like they can also be like something that just makes you feel good to check it off. And you're like, yeah, I got something done today. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, Like the other day I was like, oh, I needed to change like sizes of my podcast cover. And I was like, oh, that'll take me 5 minutes on Canva. And then I can check it off and be done with my work day.
Yes. Ooh.
So that's the sandwich method.
I love the sandwich method. I've never heard that it explained that way. And I like how you said that you felt that time blocking was limiting.
Yeah.
Same. And honestly, for me, like if the way that I have been doing tasks is
Mhm.
opposite of the sandwich method, and
Okay.
then it leaves me feeling defeated.
Yeah.
And like fuck the task, fuck the
Yep.
to-do list.
Yep.
Nothing's working.
Nothing's working. I'm never making a list again. Why do I bother? Yeah.
Yes. I love this. This feels like A, encouraging, which we need. B, possible.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited about this.
Yes. And two,
Mhm.
like if you feel like your long one is taking forever, you can skip that second filler and just end on a dopamine hit. You know,
I
you
like
don't have to
that.
overstuff your sandwich. You can just, leave that on and end the day on a high note.
Oh, that's perfect.
You
But
know,
like we need those dopamine hits. We need those like I
I'm
did
so
it.
serious about it. Like
Mhm.
sometimes I'll look at my list and I'll be like, that was a ridiculous thing to like put on a to-do list and check off, but it made me feel great. And I
Yes.
carried that like, okay, I've like got momentum and like I'm moving
Mhm.
forward into my next tasks that are more
Yes.
serious. And it makes a difference. Like it really truly does.
Amazing. Okay. I'm going to start this tomorrow.
Hey, yeah.
Yay. I can't
Love it.
wait. Oh, I love that. I love that you have a method.
Yeah,
You know, I love methods.
I know, me too.
They're
Big method
amazing.
girlies.
Yes. Okay. So I really want to dive into, I mean, this is like a question that I had
Mhm.
when I first met you and connected
Yeah.
with you. So I know that this is a question for all the listeners. And that is like, this was me. I was like, okay, this is fine and dandy and beautiful, but like, what the fuck do I actually need to automate?
There's so many things. So the reality of this question is the possibilities are endless, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of the wrong question, right? It's like what is there to automate? All of it, probably.
Yeah.
But what does your specific business and person need? That's really specific, right?
Mhm.
And so it depends on what your priorities are and what lights you up in your business that you maybe like to do.
Yeah.
And that would be different for a lot of different people. So the first step, is thinking about, I always say, okay, what do we want to keep on our plate? And what do we want to like take off of it? Let's just start with that exercise, right? So for me, like there are a lot of touch points with my clients that I could probably automate, right? And send a canned email or, automate something like that. But I really love talking with them. So
Yeah.
I keep that on my plate because I like to have like a face-to-face touch point and like
Mhm.
if I can pop on a 15-minute call and like hear their voice or do like a Voxer or, do something where I'm like, okay, how are they feeling? Like, what are we doing with our service versus like shooting a canned email? Like, I like that. That makes me feel good. And I
Yeah.
don't have a client load that makes that impossible for me to do right now. So I'm going to keep it
Mhm.
on my plate, right?
Mhm.
If at some point I wouldn't get to that point because I wouldn't let myself, but so, never mind. But somebody might have a different kind of service where they don't need to do that. It's like a
Mhm.
different offering. They don't need that face-to-face touch point. Automating emails would make total sense, right? To
Yeah.
make sure that everybody has a consistent, beautiful client experience.
Mhm.
And, they are like, I don't need to do a face-to-face touch point for this part of my business. I'm going to automate the email funnel.
Yes.
Perfect. Like, that's great, and they want to take that off their plate. So step one is really looking at your plate and being like, these are the things that light me up. And if I took that out of my business and I wasn't doing it anymore, it would make me sad. That
I
stays
like
on your
that.
plate,
Okay. Yes.
and like forget what everybody else would say would be like, well, that would be so for somebody else, they might think that would be a no-brainer automation. But for you, it's like, that's not for you, and that's fine.
Yep.
And I give you permission for that to change too
Mhm.
as you grow in your business, right? There are
Yes.
things I used to do that I really enjoy that just don't serve me right now. So I've
Mhm.
outsourced or automated those things and I'm on to different things, right?
Yeah.
So right now, figure out right now what's on your plate and then what's off your plate. So then we're going to look at what's off your plate. And I have a 5-step framework. So now we've scooped all these little guys up and we're like, these are the things I don't want to do. And they're basically going to go into three piles, right? We're going to go into an automate, a delegate, or an outsource.
Okay.
Okay. Because those are the only three things that are left to do with these little guys.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do is look at it critically and be like, there are some things you may not need. So we're going to get rid of them. And then you're left with two things, delegate or automate. And we want to automate as much as possible because at the end of the day, that will be the less expensive option.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't always need somebody manually doing things, right? It doesn't always make sense. And the other thing is sometimes like you want, especially if you're selling a digital product, for example, or a product of any kind, if somebody buys it, on the other side of the world, you want them to immediately start into your client experience and not like be waiting for you to wake up on the other side of the world and start their client experience, right?
Yeah.
So that would make sense to be like, okay, I need to have something set up for when they purchase a product and they immediately, get what they need right away. That would be a good automation. You can still have a touch base after that if you want to, but you want them to get started.
Yeah.
So that would make sense. Like start that. So let's go through the framework. I'm getting off track for myself. I'm getting too excited. So step one is asking yourself the question, is this repetitive? Because I say all the time, if you have to do something more than once, it can probably be automated. Because we don't want to be doing things like writing answers to FAQs from scratch every time somebody sends you a DM. We're not doing that anymore because that's time that you don't need to spend, right? We can have those pre-done, put into a mini chat and like set up to where if it says this question or this keyword or this part of a question, it can, send them right off into your FAQ funnel, which is amazing. And again, they're not waiting for a person to wake up, in a different time zone and answer this question because that is the difference between somebody buying and not buying. So you want to make this like as great and easy and fun as possible, right? And I think people get nervous too when they're like, well, like it's not me doing it. Are they going to know it's like a bot? I'm scared of bots. And like, no, because you are writing them. It would be the same thing as if you sat down and were answering them. Type out your answers just like you would if you were having a conversation. We don't have to do it ourselves every single time. You already have the answer. You've already written it.
I love that.
You need to reinvent the wheel and retype and rewrite every single time somebody has the same question. That doesn't make any sense, right? And that's not putting any value on your time.
Yeah.
And your time is as valuable as your client's time. Just as valuable. So like, let's put it on the same pedestal that we're putting their time on,
Well, yes.
So
I hear that.
Okay. So that's the first question. Is it repetitive? When we have, a list of items that are repetitive, perfect. So then the next question is this task super time consuming? So now we're going to look through the things that take us a ton of time. So you sit down and you're like, all right, these are the lists of things that take me forever to do. How do I make this simpler on myself? How do I make this easier? And you go through and you want to make sure that if it's not an income generating task and it's taking up a huge chunk of your day, that's like a hard no. We got to figure this out, right?
Yeah.
Because your time, your manual time should be spent on as much time as possible on income generating tasks. Because that's what's making you money, baby. And that's okay to want that. And it's okay to like say that your time needs to be spent doing those things that make you money.
Yes.
And it's okay to be like, I can't do all of this stuff and not get any return.
Right.
Because that's not serving me right now. And that's not to say you can't have a passion project or, something that doesn't generate income, but lights your soul up. I mean, you guys use your discernment to know what this is for you. But I am at a point in my life where like my time working is very, very limited. It has to be spent doing something that is going to increase my income.
Yes. Agreed.
So at this point, I don't have the free time to be like, oh, yay, it's fine if I spend, 3 hours on something that's not bringing me money. At the end of the day, it's got to. So think about, if it's time consuming and it's not bringing you money and it's not something you need your hand in, that's another key that we could set up an automation for it.
Perfect.
The next question I asked is this task prone to error? So
Mm,
this is a good question that I think we forget about sometime. If it's, for me, it would be anything math related. I need something to help me out with that. But if it's prone to like human error, we want to try to set up an automation. And that would be sending something on time at the right time, making sure invoices are sent out. This often for me has to do with like accounting and bookkeeping and things like that.
hmm.
Uh, where it could be prone to error. We could set up automations and machines that are not prone to error, right? And they can make sure that things are happening the way they need to happen. And I'm not manually doing things or needing to like send things at an exact time or date when we can set it up to do that for us.
Yes.
Because it's just impossible for us to keep those all in our heads at one time, you know?
Yes, for
All
sure.
right. And then the last one is, does this task require human judgment?
Mm.
Obviously, if it does, we can't fully automate it,
Yeah.
right? Okay, we can't pass it off. So if you need to manually approve a task, we can oftentimes partially automate it to that point, and then
Mhm.
then you can click a button like, yes, send this through. No, I need to touch base. But that's the last one, right? If it requires you to actually sign off on it, we can probably get up close to like a partial automation for it, but
Yeah.
not a full one, because we need you to be able to sign off and make sure that it passes the vibe test.
Yes. I love this. All
All
of
right,
these
those
are
are my 5 things.
amazing. All of these questions, I was like, ooh, this is very like, that was really, really helpful because I don't think about all of those things.
Yeah, we don't. And then we're like, I don't know what to automate, and it's all overwhelming and I'm out.
Yes.
And now this kind of gives you a way to be like, okay, I can kind of sit through and look at my personal business and like what I have
Mhm.
going on and like go through this checklist and make those decisions.
Yes. Perfect. So tell us what your favorite like apps are or tools are for automation.
Perfect. So the first one that I think should be in everybody's back pocket if they are automating is Zapier.
Mm-hmm.
And most people know about this one. It's very common. It's been around a very long time. And it's great. It's really great at connecting tools together that don't connect together automatically.
Yes.
And it has gotten better with the introduction of like AI is everywhere right now. Like it's bombarding us, but it's actually been super great for a lot of things. And in Zapier, that you can put a prompt in and say, okay, I need this to do this, and these are my like services and my programs, and it will kind of build it for you.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
which is great because sometimes you're like, I know what I needed to do
Yeah.
and I can say it, but like I'm not sure exactly how to connect it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is like, I just word vomit a bunch and I'm like, I just need all of these things to do this and connect to this. And it'll spit something out. And it's not perfect. And sometimes I still got to tweak it a little bit, but it gives me a starting point to be like, okay, perfect. Like I can kind of walk my way through this now. So that's really helpful too if you're like getting started and you're like, I don't even know how to like frame an automation.
Yeah.
I know I want it to do this.
Yes.
Gives you a starting point, right? So Zapier is number one. I would highly recommend everybody kind of get familiar with that if you're starting to do automations.
Mhm.
Um, it's great. Something I just set up recently is like when somebody purchases a digital product of mine in Stan Store, I automatically have their email and their information sent to my flow desk and put into their own segmented list. And since Stan Store doesn't talk to Flowdesk natively, right? I was having like 2 lists being built and I wasn't
Yeah.
able to like put my funnel together because I don't like the funnel building on Stan Store when I'm already doing it on Flowdesk.
Hmm.
Uh, so I was like, okay, just shove all those emails over here. And
Yes.
I don't have to be like, ooh, somebody, bought a digital product. Now I got to go grab their email and like manually import it into, or like download the CSV every week and input,
Yep.
they'll just do that automatically. And
Amazing.
Zapier can connect those two things that don't typically talk to each other.
Yes. I love
Uh,
that.
and a lot of things have their own automations now, like built in. So, for example, I use Notion
Mhm.
for lots and lots and lots, and it's great. And it has a ton of native automations. It can set things up to repeat for you. It can move things, over to new boards when you click a button. Like it can duplicate objects. One of the great things is you can have a big giant calendar that talks, takes all of your calendars into one big one and it all talks to each other and
Ooh.
it's great. So you get, a lot of native automations with your systems.
Mm-hmm.
Trello does the same thing. So does Asana.
Yeah.
Monday.com has that as well. Like there's a lot of automation. I mean, there's an infinite amount. So step one would really be sitting down with what you're using,
Mm-hmm.
taking a look. Oh, there are a lot of times, people like me out there where you can send a message and be like, hey, do you know if this program automates this? Which is great. But the programs also typically will have like an FAQ page where you can kind of take a peek at kind of what they have to offer too. Especially if you haven't landed on one yet and you're wanting to shop around.
Yes. Okay. This makes me excited because not recently, but like last year with Zapier, I was like, yeah, whatever. And this year I'm like, oh my God, this is more fun. Like there's more things I can do
Yes.
with it.
Yes. It really I feel like in the last year has improved a ton.
A ton.
Yeah.
Yes. And you're reminding me to go in there and just type stuff in.
Just play
Yeah.
with it. Like make that one of your quick wins. Playing on Zapier.
Ooh, I love
That's
it.
one of the things that we're like, don't do because we're like, oh, I have a million other things to do, but you could take 5 minutes and
I
check it.
could. And that would feel good for me.
Yeah. And then you'd be like, oh, that was fun. Now
Oh,
I
hell
can,
yes.
kind of get those creative juices flowing first thing in the morning.
Ugh, I love it. I'm literally writing that down now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So while we have time management on the brain,
Yep.
I am dying to talk to you about repurposing content. This is
Yay.
huge. And this is something that has been for me personally, this has been like a huge question mark
Yeah.
for years for me for some reason. Like repurposing content feels heavy and hard.
Yeah, because I think we're trained to be like innovative, do the new things, like
Mhm.
stand out in the crowd, like don't do what everybody else is doing. Don't do what you've been doing. Like you
Yes.
gotta to be relevant, you gotta reinvent. Like there's a lot of narratives that are thrown at us all the time.
Yeah.
And I think we're looking at repurposing content in the wrong way.
Okay.
So my mantra this year, back in January, I wrote this down. I stuck it to my computer and it was like repurpose with purpose.
Mm.
And that is like what I have been chanting all day long, all year long, because we have to work smarter right now. We don't have, maybe some of you do, but I don't have an entire creative team. I don't have an entire marketing department. I don't
Mhm.
have a bunch of people sitting here with their other brains helping me be creative, right? Like I only got my one brain. I have limited time and my one brain. And so she's doing the best she can.
Doing
So
great.
yeah. But I also know I have 5 years worth of content that isn't irrelevant or could be tweaked,
Right.
right? And then the other thing is, it's not bad content because I posted it already. It
Yes.
doesn't turn bad because it's out there. It doesn't get boring. It doesn't get any less helpful or true
Hmm.
because it's been said before. And so you really have to think we also live in an age where what percent of your audience is even seeing what you're putting out there?
So true.
Like 0.02% sometimes. Like sometimes I
Mhm.
will post something and I'm like, am I shouting into a void and nobody is looking at my stuff? Like, did anyone see this?
Yep.
You're like, oh, okay. So think of it that way too. Like there is a great chance that somebody didn't even see this. And I think we get in our own head, like, well, I sent a big email about this. I can't write a whole, blog post about this too. And then you think you want me to write a, Instagram carousel that talks about it as well. I put it in my stories, and a LinkedIn post, and I should make a pin about it. It gets to the point where I don't know, what's too much. And the answer is it's
Yeah.
not too much. Just period. That's the answer. It's
There it
not.
is.
Because there are people who will follow your newsletter and never open the Instagram app.
True.
And they're not going to see it, or they're not an avid Instagram user and it probably isn't going to get pushed there, for your feed anyways. Right. And maybe they'll catch it in a story, but that's not going to detract because a story is not the same as a newsletter. Even if it's similar content, you're going to say it a little differently every time.
Yeah.
And you could get somebody, this happens to me a lot, where I get somebody and they message me and they're like, okay, now is the time. I have been listening to you talk about this for 3 months. And like, you finally gotten through to me. And I hear what you're saying. I know that I need to do this. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had said it one time 3 months ago, this person wouldn't be in my DM saying, I hear you.
Yes.
I'm ready to take that next step. Like, thank God you've been talking about it nonstop for 3 months, because now I can see like that I need it. And I've been sitting on it because I wasn't sure. And now I am.
So good.
And so at the end of the month, I have been taking stock of like the content that I've had that performs well. And I'm like, how can I repurpose this content that performs well? Because it very clearly is speaking to my audience.
Yes.
And so I'll sit down and I'll take the reel that did super well and I will write a newsletter about it. Or I will make another reel about this thing. And it could be almost the same, but tweaked just a little bit of a different angle, or let's look at it this way, or not different at all.
Right.
It might not be different at all, except like maybe a different video and like a different trending audio or something like that. Like, it may not be different. The message might be exactly the same. I think I've talked about, my sandwich method for years, but it could be the first time somebody stumbles upon it when I post it.
Me.
Yes. And that could be the light bulb for somebody that's like, oh my God, I kind of had no idea I could structure this way.
Yeah.
And if I had talked about it one time 4 years ago when I started doing it and thought like, well, somebody can scroll back on my page and find it, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. And our other thing is too, I think we really get in our heads where we think, if I talk about this thing, if I repurpose this content, people are going to think I'm annoying.
Yes.
They're going to unsubscribe. They're not going to want to listen to me. They're not going to want, to keep coming back to the same thing over and over again. And guys, it's just not the truth. It's not the truth. We don't stop unfollowing somebody because they talk about the same thing over and over again. It's very likely the reason we followed them in the first place.
Yep.
Like, I know that the girl that I followed for incredible email marketing advice is going to talk about email marketing every day. Every day she's going to show up and talk about email. I'm not surprised. It's why I'm here. Well, she showed up and talked about something else because she felt like people were tired about her talking about email marketing. I would be very confused.
Oh, that was such a beautiful perspective and angle on that, because it's so true. Like, so many of us and my clients, we have this conversation all the time. We're like, oh my God, I'm sharing it again. And I just feel like I'm annoying people. Like, we think that we're annoying and we're not at all.
And the more beautiful thing about this is, if somebody thinks you are, they are going to see themselves out, and good riddance.
Yes.
Great. I don't want someone who thinks I'm annoying hanging out on my page. Go away. Go find somebody else that serves you. And I say that with so much love.
Yeah.
Like, truly, I am not everybody's cup of tea. I don't know how that's possible, but I'm not. And I'm truly, that's okay. The way that I talk about something may not be for you.
Yes.
So go find somebody else who talks about what I talk about in a different way, and you vibe with them.
Yep.
Fantastic. I want that for you, because I want you to get what you need from somebody.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be me, but I don't want somebody hanging around like with the bad energy over here. So go find somebody else. And that's great. And I do that all the time. I will follow somebody and not stop resonating with them. And that's okay. I'm gonna go find somebody else, or I don't need their service anymore. And that's also okay. Right.
Yep.
So leaving the offense in our hearts and like, it doesn't serve us, dropping it at the door and being like, we want people to find what serves them. And I hope that I'm that, but if I'm not, it's okay, because there's another person I will serve and I have to talk to them. And what I offer is of such high value and like is so important to get out into the world that I have to talk about it. So if you don't want to hear about it, this is the wrong place for you to be, because I have to talk about it. That's my purpose.
Oh, I'm so happy you said that because this is something that I talk about a lot where, and literally exactly what you just said, I'm like, this is a new neural pathway where like, I'm enough. I'm obsessed with my work. This
Yeah.
is what I came here to do. Like, I can't stop talking about it. I can't stop sharing about it. It's so fucking fun.
And like when you have that, like you have, like I have to talk about Notion all the time. I love it.
Yes.
I know that I need to tell people about it. I got to tell you about it every day. Like
Yes.
that's just what I'm here to do. And
Mm, I
hang
love
around
it.
if you want to hear about it, I guess. That's
Yeah.
great. But it's not bad to talk about it over and over again. And it's not bad to go back and say, this email newsletter had the most opens of the month. Why? I should talk about this again. I
Yes.
don't have to start over every time I'm sitting down to make a content calendar for the month.
Mm,
And it doesn't serve you to do that because you continue to throw spaghetti at the wall then and you're ignoring the ones that are sticking.
yes.
And so we don't
So
need to
good.
do that. We don't need to do that. Our job is not to reinvent the wheel, right? And I think too, you have to know everything has pretty much been done, right? But it hasn't been done in your voice and it hasn't been done by you.
Yes.
And so it's okay if it's been done.
Hmm.
How many website designers exist in the world? How many general surgeons exist in the world? I mean, there are people that do things that we do, but they
Yep.
can't do it exactly like you. So there's no problem.
Yes. So many permission slips you just dropped there. Little nuggets of wisdom. I love
It's
it.
fine.
So good. Okay. So going back to when you said like looking back and seeing what performed well,
Mhm.
when you're looking at that, I know that this is a
Uh-huh.
question that's going to be asked. When
Yeah.
you're looking at that, what are you looking at to see if it performed well?
So it totally depends. There are a couple different things that I'm looking for to say this piece of content did well,
Right.
right? So you can look at your vanity metrics. That would be like it got lots of views. It was
Mhm.
great. But if I just looked at what my best performing reel like view count was, it would be when I'm ranting about a minivan that has nothing to do with anything. And like that's not what I did it. Okay, 4 million people saw it, but it did nothing for me because it was a throwaway post. Like, okay, so if you were to look at that, that would be my best performing content, and I should go sell minivans. Should be my job. So great. So I don't tend to look at those numbers so much. I will
Yeah.
glance, right, and be like, okay, in general, what's popping off, and like start there. Gives you a
Yes.
starting point, but like that is not the end all be all because
Mhm.
I'm in the wrong business then if that's the case. So, we look at that. I'll look at the views and say, okay, I'll use that as my starting point.
Mhm.
And then I go in and I look at a couple different things if we're talking about Instagram. Um, I really look at shares and I really look at saves and then I really look at my DMs. What are people in my DMs about?
Mm.
And this is really story based too. Like, what did people actually take time out of their day to hit respond to and like type a message out about?
Yeah.
And I will use that to be like, okay, I posted this like tip, for example, in my story, and I got a bunch of people say, wow, that was a really great tip. So for
Mhm.
me, it's like, great, I need to download that story where I'm talking to the camera, already done, telling this tip and upload it as a reel.
Yes.
It's content I have already done.
Mhm.
People will probably see it and be like, hey, I saw that. Or we're all bird brains and they won't remember that they even saw it,
Yep.
and they'll see it again. Or they'll have seen it and thought that was cool, but didn't take the time to reply, right? And then they'll see it in the reel and be like, that really was cool, and hit a like or a save or a share,
Yes.
or you'll get people who are like, that was such an awesome tip. I'm so glad it's now in reel form and I can share it.
Yes.
Like now I can save
Exactly.
and share it, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I look at that a lot. Like, what are people actually responding to me?
Yeah, that's perfect.
And it's not necessarily the view count. Like, there have been times where I've had like an average amount of views, but my saves were incredible. So, like, I know people are coming back to this. So, I need to make more content on that so it's more readily available for them.
Yes.
Or I know that this got shared a ton, which means this is going to somebody's like business girlies group chat. And so like, great. I need to do more stuff for them to go, man, I need to share this with like the other girls in my life that I'm doing this with. Right.
Mhm.
Um, so I really look at saves and I really look at shares, and then I listen to what people are saying to me when I'm dropping content. And moving away from Instagram, are people replying to your newsletter? What are they saying? What is your open rate there? Right. And like peeking at what people are consuming, but then what they're holding on to and
Yeah.
actually taking time out of their day to say something about. I know it's good if I have people taking time out of their day to send me a message about it.
Yes. So true.
You know, like that's when I'm like, all right, multiple people now like really validated that like this is good. So
Mhm.
where else can I put it? Can I take that reel? Can I write a blog post about it? Can I, take that blog post and send it off, like bite size it down and make 3 different reels from it?
Yeah.
Absolutely, you can.
So
Absolutely.
good. I always forget about, I like that you, well, first off, I like that you said this saves and shares because I think it was last week I did like a quote or a
Yeah.
carousel and it literally got maybe like 7 likes. And I
Yeah.
was like, whatever. But then it had 20 plus saves.
Yes. So
And I was,
it doesn't make sense. And we have to stop thinking people are going to make sense. Okay. Like you would think if they're saving it, they could give us a little bit of a heart. Okay.
but no.
They just don't. They just don't. The consumer is not doing that. They are self-serving 100% of the time. Like that's
Yeah.
fine. That's the consumer mindset. So I need to know that, right?
Mhm.
So the share and the save are self-serving. Nobody sees that. It's not for me. It is for
Yep.
them. So if those numbers are high, I know it's a good piece of content.
Yes.
Forget about the rest of it. People don't
Mhm.
comment like they used to. People don't heart like they used to, but they're sending me a message and again, taking time out of their day. That's good. And if they're sending it and saving it, it's for them. You know, it's good.
Yes. I'm so happy you said that because we look at, and people, I can guarantee you those 20 plus saves, like a small percentage of them maybe already followed me or like didn't hit the follow button.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And this
Yep.
is like, I'm sharing this to say we're so worried about the number of followers, the number of likes, the number of comments, but
They're
like
vanity metrics, guys.
it doesn't
Truly.
matter.
And followers doesn't always equal sales.
No,
The amount of likes doesn't always equal sales.
no.
And like that took me a long time to like feel comfortable with because we want to look at it and be like, that is our outward measure. I go to therapy for this, guys. Don't worry. That's our outward measure of worth. Like, nobody be concerned. I'm working on it.
It's fine.
And like, it's good. Um, but that for a long time, I was like, if I have this amount of followers, then I will be successful and I'll have all the money and whatever. I make
Mhm.
more money on my page with 1,100 followers than I do on my page with 32,000.
Yep. Yes. It is. I
That's just
know that
how it
that's,
works. They're different pages, but that's just here to say, like, they're obviously doing 2 different things, but the followers does not correlate with
nope.
the amount of money coming in your door, the amount of people that you can help.
Yep. Exactly. Just spitting facts. It's so true.
Yep.
Um, what else did I want to say? The saves and the shares,
Yep.
and I forget, it'll come back. Okay. So with like an Instagram reel, for example, I just want to like list some things to remind myself and those
Perfect.
listening. So we can repurpose that into
All the things. Yeah. Do you want
blog
me
post. I would please, I'm like, please, queen of lists.
what I'm gonna give you, you can share this with your people. Okay.
Okay.
I have my process map for
Oh,
how I take one piece of content and turn it into 40.
oh my God.
I'm gonna give it to you and you can share it with everybody, put it in a
Yeah.
newsletter or something when this goes out, or like have it as a download or something.
Okay. It's going in the
Uh,
show notes.
the process map is fantastic. So basically, you're going to take one thing and turn it into 40, but here's the basics. If we're going with a reel, for example, right? Okay. So one reel can be a set of stories.
Mm.
You can expand upon it in a newsletter. You can expand upon it in a blog post. You can, you can take it and put it in, you can make it into a podcast episode, a bite-sized one. Podcast episodes don't have to be an hour long. Only if
Right.
you're like me and you can't shut up, but they don't have to be. I don't know if you guys follow Shannon McKinstry.
Mm-mm.
She's a great marketing expert. I love her stuff. She's really real. She has a podcast. Her episodes are like 12 minutes long.
Love it.
She literally gets on like in the car picking her kids up from school and is like, "Hey, I thought about this and I'm gonna like give it to you."
That's me.
And
I love
uploads
that.
it as a podcast. And I'm like,
Oh,
where are my voice note girls? Cause like this is what I need to be doing. So
oh
like
my God.
she takes that, that was a reel, that was a set of stories. Now it's this 12-minute podcast. It can be turned into a newsletter. And that newsletter can be turned into a blog post, which can be put on Pinterest.
Mm,
Uh, and then think about it, okay, now you have this giant blog post that you took from this reel. You can pull quotes out for LinkedIn or Facebook. And it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving.
yes.
And like if you dive deeper and expound on it, that can breed more reels and more
Mm,
story slides. Like there's so much you can do with one idea. And I
God,
think,
true.
what's cool too is reels in general. I'm on like a reels kick right now with you guys. Sorry.
Love it.
Um, it's the things that are performing really well are very much less like, here's 10 ways to do this. That's too much information. Great.
Yep.
That's 10 reels. And I'm not even
Agreed.
kidding. Right.
Yep.
So instead of being like, here's my 10 things, say, here's my top three,
Mm-hmm.
or start a series and have one at a time.
Yeah.
And there's more content where it could be one newsletter with 10 bullet points. It's now like, 5 to 10 different reels.
This. Yep.
And so there's just the the content. And when the content's good, it breeds itself.
Mm. Hot damn. That's a quote.
Um, so I think that's just what we forget when we get in our heads about repurposing is like, say it over and over again, baby. Like that is fine. That's why people want to hear from you. And we need to hear things multiple ways, multiple times from multiple perspectives. And that's just it. As consumers, especially, like I think about the times I've sat on something and been like, it took me having it in my face 8 times before
Yep.
I was like, man, that really does sound like a good workshop.
Yes.
Or maybe it was, I knew about the workshop, but it was this time she's, got up there and said, this was a testimonial from my last workshop. This girl did XYZ. So if you're struggling, like this is the workshop for you. And I'm like, man, I really am struggling. This is the workshop for me. And like, if she had stopped a week ago with just putting up hey, I'm hosting this workshop for XYZ,
Mm-hmm.
I'd have been like, that's cool.
Oh God, I love this.
And like because she's taking that content and repurposing it and saying it over and over again and giving us new ways of looking at it. And now I'm like, dang, I am the ideal client. I didn't even know it.
Yep. God. Okay. You just gave, like, when you were talking, I had this visual. You just gave us and myself a whole different perspective on content. And like, because you always hear, and it's so true, consistency is key. But
Yep.
what you were saying just like triggered something in my brain where I'm like, Dad Kelly, you talk about creating new neural pathways all the time. It's repetition over and over and over and over again. It's the same fucking thing with content.
Yes. Over and over again. Like we want to create those things for our people.
I
And we
love
think
that.
too, like we want it to be so stupid easy when somebody
Yeah.
comes to our page and be like, this is what I do. I do it really good and I do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
if they leave confused going, man, she did a lot of stuff. She never talked about the same thing twice. They're going to leave and go, I don't even know what she did.
So true.
And that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. Whereas when you go to somebody like, the other day I got lost on this person's page because they had really great Zapier tips. And I was like, I'm always wanting to learn. And that's what they did one thing. That's the whole thing that was on their page. And I was like, I love you. I'm going
Yes.
to stick around. Tell me more things that are the same. Like, awesome. Great. I'm here for it. I'm like, that's great. That's good. It's
Mm-hmm.
fine. It's not a bad thing. And it's not like a dirty word to like do one thing, do it really good.
Yes. Because that's what you're known for.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Yes. That just landed.
And here's my permission slip to you to like not be scared of niching down, guys.
Yes.
Hitting a lot of points today. So there's my nugget for that.
We just covered so much. Oh my God. This was amazing. Normally I'm like, okay, anything you want to leave us with? But you just dropped
I don't
so
even know
many.
where to start. We're gonna have to transcribe this and like figure out what all the nuggets were because I just info dumped a lot on you.
So many. I already know. We already quoted you. Everything's coming through.
It's that 8:30 p.m. me after my kids aren't talking to me and touching me.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm talking to a grown-up today for like the first time. So you guys are getting me at my peak.
Welcome.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, this was amazing. So many things. I feel excited. I feel excited about repurposing my content, which I now like know how to fucking do that. Where before that felt
Yes.
like an alien, like just I couldn't deal. But now
And it's
I'm
like
on
hard
board.
to put that on a to-do list. One, repurpose content. What does that mean?
Right.
Now we know what it means.
Yes. Now I'm excited. I'm excited to do the sandwich method. Yes. And implement your 5-step framework.
Thanks for automations.
Hell fucking yes. Oh, yes, queen. This was so good. I know that everyone's going to love this. And
Good.
one question I always ask my people is what makes you feel like a badass babe?
So many things. I feel like a badass babe because I have so much joy in my work. And like I've found this sweet spot where I have so much joy in my motherhood journey and like I have so much joy in my work journey that I just feel like I'm doing it right now. Like I'm doing the stuff that I wanted to do.
Mm.
And like I don't have excuses to like not do it right now. Like I'm making it happen and I'm figuring out what that looks like in my life and it feels really great.
Oh, amazing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much. It's been a journey to get here, so thank you.
You did it.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your tips, your magic and nuggets of wisdom that you secretly sprinkled in there. This was
You are so welcome.
so good. Thank you for being on the show. I loved every second of this. That was so much freaking fun. If you love this episode as much as I did, please take a screenshot and tag me on Instagram at @the_badassbabe so I can share and celebrate you. And I have a special gratitude gift for you. If you're feeling called, please give us a 5-star rating and write your review on Apple Podcasts. Take a screenshot, submit it. Let me know and I'll send you instant access to my Fuck Yes Money hypnosis as a thank you. And I'll see you in the next episode.